One of the most underrated techniques in sound design is using panning to your advantage. Today I want to show you a couple of different techniques that you can use in your next sound design session. So we're still in this dark side production right here, and in the last video I actually went through this patch really quickly. One of the things that I didn't include in that is the fact that we're using panning to our advantage here by just modulating it with this random sample and hold, which has the same note length as the main modulation for the volume of the oscillator. What that means is that every note in the sequence that is being played, every gated segment that is being played is going to have a different panning value to it. But as you can see, this modulation is being modulated in and of itself by the autopan parameter. So this parameter here allows you to increase and decrease the amount of auto panning that is happening on this patch. So right now, as it's playing here, there will be no panning and all of the notes will play dead center in the middle of the stereo field. And here it will be randomly panned to the left or the right for each of the little segments of the gated note. When I say little segments, I just mean the individual 16 notes that make up this sequence. Now for the next techniques, I actually need to show them in Serum because I don't think I can set them up in Vital. As I've said in the last video, I'm not really familiar with Vital yet. I'm still learning it to the same depth as I know Serum. And one of the things that I know for Serum is that there's these really cool wavetables in the DAT Psy pack. I believe it's in this one here. As you can see, we have these stereo oscillators and they come with a left and right version. So let's just take one of the left single cycles over here. As you can see, this is a single cycle, so this doesn't change with the wavetail position. What we can do now is send this to oscillator B and then just click here to get the right equivalent of that. And then you pan them accordingly, right and left. And now you'll have a very cool wide starting point for your sound design. Now in this case I use the DAT Psy Wavetail Pack Volume 3, but there's also other sources that you can get from it. Overall, the main takeaway is that using one oscillator for the right channel and one oscillator for the left channel can be a cool starting point. What you can also do is this cool offset trick with the panning on this filter right here. Let's just modulate this panning here, and we're just going to modulate it back and forth 25%. So as you can see, we go 25% left, 25% right. Let's maybe go a little bit further. And you can hear that this is not really the standard panning that we know. It is just panning the filter part to either the left or the right. And you can see that in the filter cutoff, as the filter cutoff will open up for the other channel. So it kind of closes for the right and then it opens up for the left. And then when it moves to the other side for the panning, it closes it for the left and it opens it up for the right. Now some really cool things can happen if you set this really fast. I've talked about filter FM before on this channel. But this means that you can do different types of filter FM on the left and the right because they will be offset. And you can imagine that this is another great starting point for your patches. Now, quick intermission to say that if you want to support the channel, make sure that you like the video and that you're subscribed. Also, if you want to support me financially, check out my products on Gumroad, which include preset packs, sample packs, and my masterclass. Another way to support me is through my Patreon, where you get early access to videos, priority and feedback streams, and many more benefits. Links for both of these are going to be in the description. Now let's get back into the video. Now, one of the things that we do have to be careful of is the overall stereo width of the whole sound. Let's just open up a stereo processor so that we can see it. And you can see that we're getting pretty wide with this patch. I would argue that we are just a little bit too wide, but mainly in different frequencies. What I mean by that is usually towards the higher frequencies, I like a little bit more width, and towards the lower frequencies, I like the sound to be a little bit thinner. So in terms of processing for a sound like this, if you really want to place it in the stereo field properly, what I would recommend is maybe something like this. We're actually going to use all 4 bands, even though we don't really care about the bass frequencies here. We're just going to use this for the lower mids here. So we're going to really lower this in terms of width. We're going to lower this a little bit, maybe half of what this value is. We're going to go up a little bit here and then up a little bit more here. And now we still have the overall width to set kind of the global width of the whole thing. But you can hear that for the lower frequencies, we're much narrower than for the higher frequencies. Now, I don't want to go too much into stereo wave in and of itself, but it is something to take into account anytime that you're working with panning, because you can have problems with the sound becoming too wide if you use these panning tricks. You can do a simple check on one of these analyzers here. For those that don't know, the left channel will be represented right here and the right channel will be represented right here. So just to give you an example, let's just take an initialized preset here and we just start panning it left to right, and you'll see what will happen to the signal here on this analyzer. And what you can see is what is happening is that it moves between the left and the right channel, which means that we can essentially say that it takes the volume of the left channel and the right channel for each sample and kind of 2D plots it on this graph here. You can almost think of it as an X and Y axis, but it is just shifted 45 degrees. And then there's this extra line which just indicates the mono signal, which makes sense because the mono signal is nothing more than the left and the right channel being at the same volume. As a stereo signal means that there's differences inside the left and the right channel, and you can only get differences in the left and the right channel if you're not on this middle line here. Because if you are on this middle line, the volume in the left and right channel is the same. You can imagine that if you're right here on the left channel and you're at the same value on the right channel, that it will take the combined average here, which will land you somewhere here on this mono line. So if you're panning stuff, keep that in mind. What might also be cool is to just pan the whole patch itself. One of the things that I like to do, for example, with atmospheres is, let's say that we do something like this. Let's go lower here and we're going to clear everything till the end and then clear it like this as well, so that we have just this kind of waveform here. And I'm going to gain it like that. What we can do is give this a lot of detune, and then we'll get an atmosphere sound like this. Maybe we'll go a little bit higher like that. Maybe we want some change over time as well, so we'll slowly morph between the different detune amounts. And let's just add it to the track right here as a 2-bar section. Maybe let's go up a little bit, like that. What I like to do to create kind of like a Doppler effect is to use the pitch bend. We're going to leave it at its default +2, -2 here. And we're going to create a curve like this. And then we want it to sound like it's coming from the left, moving to the right. We already have the pitch effect of the Doppler effect. As it's coming closer, it is higher in pitch. And then once it starts to move away, it becomes lower in pitch. That's essentially what we're doing with this curve over here. So now we'll use the panning to get the directionality down. We're going to use the exact opposite of the curve. So something like this. It will start being at the left of us and then it will slowly move to the right of us. And now finally, we need to do a little bit of volume. Here we're going to have a different curve. As it gets closer to us, it becomes louder. And now you have this really cool switching Doppler effect sound, which obviously could only have been done with the panning. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with the panning in sound design. There's a lot of neat little different tricks. For now though, this is going to be the end of the video, so I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned a couple of tricks that you can apply to your own sound design. But that's going to be it. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.